Welcome, everybody. My name is Chad Corbett, founder of Probate Mastery and Magnum Opus Project. Here today with Andy Cole from 0260 Labs. And we are going to talk about real estate ISAs. If that's a foreign term to you, that's inside sales agent. We're going to unpack this, hear Andy's story, how he got to where he is, why his business exists. I'll give you a hint. It's because he had some of the same struggles you guys do. But this is something that comes up often. Like, I'm not getting my calls made either because I'm afraid or I've run out of time. How do I do this? Do I get on Fiverr and hire somebody and train them just to have them go to work for somebody else for 25 cents more an hour? Or do I hire this company that says they want me to take a 40-hour block of time? Or do I just try this call center because they cold called me and I don't know if it's going to work or not? It's a constant struggle we see in the industry. So whether you're a real estate agent or broker or you're an investor, it's something that I think putting Andy in front of you as the expert, let's hear his story, learn from what he learned, and maybe he's a good fit for you to get this done, or maybe he can provide a lesson you can pull from his experience to overcome this challenge yourself. So Andy, welcome to the call.
Chad, I appreciate you having me, man. I enjoyed our conversation prior to hopping on it. And I was your assistant that reached out to me on Facebook, I think, out of the blue. Yeah, Kat. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't expecting this. First podcast I've ever been on. So I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think it helps for context. Like, tell us where you entered the real estate industry. When did you realize that having an ISA was a big necessity, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
Yeah. So I've been in the space now for 8 years. I started, geez, this was like, I was 20, it's like 25 at the time. So yeah, I'm 33 now. So 8 years, give or take. Got a job working as an ISA. The job description was literally to make $120 a day. I had never had a sales position ever.
Now, was that on
Uh,
a real estate team, Andy?
it was on a real estate team. Yeah. It was literally an inside sales position. So that was my entry into the real estate space. I had no real estate experience. I didn't have a real estate license. I just graduated from school. I had no idea what I was doing. Of course, like college, like all the courses that I took in college, like didn't prepare me for anything.
No way.
So I know, surprise, like, right? Yeah. I've got some pretty strong opinions on college, but that's maybe a conversation for another time. So I got this job. They stuck me in in a conference room in the corner. Didn't have my own office. Like, it was pretty small, cramped office. I got a job working for a guy named Spencer Hash. This was in San Antonio, Texas. And what I didn't realize at the time was Spencer was actually a pretty top producer. He was a pretty top producing agent. I didn't realize like who I was even working for. Like I said, no real estate experience, had no idea who I was working for. He set me up in front of Boomtown. So this was back in 2014. I mean, this was back like, CRMs, I feel like were maybe not that is as common as they are today. Like, everybody knows what a CRM is. Back then, though, he was pretty forward thinking. I mean, he put me in front of Boomtown. I was like, okay, this is actually like pretty straightforward. Just be detailed, be organized, do the work every day, come in, do the work every day, make your phone calls, add your notes. I mean, real estate it becomes really predictable.
And what was your compensation model? Did you have a base plus commission?
I did, yeah. So it was $30,000. Yeah, I think it was $30,000 base plus bonuses. Starting off, it was like 2.5% of 3% was the closing bonus. So that, it was entry level, completely entry level.
What did that business owner end up paying you?
So the high water mark, I was earning pretty close to 100,000 a year.
Okay. So where that's important, and I want to put a pin in that, what the audience here is considering is, how the hell am I going to afford $100,000 salary if I need someone to help me make calls? And that's the problem in real estate. I think that's where you ultimately will find you saw an opportunity, because people who aren't running it full scale, anyone who's new to the industry or just getting in a transition or just getting this up, it's out of reach for a lot of people. So having a dedicated ISA that actually converts, not just that burns up the phones and hangs paper, but an ISA that actually gets appointments and those appointments stick. It's not an easy thing to achieve. Most people have to pay $70,000 to $100,000 a year for that really qualified caller. Now, you can hire an ISA for a lot less, for sure, but you get what you pay for. And you either invest in their salary for a skill set they already have, or you invest in growing that person and pouring yourself into them and helping them achieve that skill set. For context, just that this is one of the reasons why you're here. A lot of people don't have the cash flow or the courage to bite off a $100,000 employee, which is why I think the service you guys provide is valuable to people who haven't reached that level yet.
So I think the cash outlay to bring on an ISA, like, yeah, there's that, but man, there's so much that's involved with even like bringing an ISA up to speed. The job description for me when I first started was $120 a day. That's one KPI to optimize for. It's like, how do you organize a CRM? How do you get detailed notes? How do you make sure to get all of the questions answered? Not dig one level deep, but dig like a 3, 4, 5, 6 levels deep and get all the information. Because, a buyer, maybe they're thinking about buying a house. Okay, but what's the real story? Like, do they need to sell in order to buy? Okay, well, now we're talking two transactions. It's like, how do you get the ISA to be operating at that peak level where the money that you're spending one to make five, ideally? I mean, I think like as a business owner, that's what you're really looking for. It's tough, man.
The answer is simple. It's systems and training. The implementation is what's tough, right?
The
So
implementation is really tough. Like the accountability side of things, like you can have the best training in the world, which we have some pretty good training. You can have the best systems in the world, which I think we've got, like our systems are very dialed in, but like the accountability side of things, every day we're looking at performance, like how many calls did they make and how many texts did they sent out? How many appointments were booked? How many questions are the ISAs asking? Right? If people aren't asking questions, if they're off just doing their own little thing over here, I start getting concerned when, especially the newer ISAs, they're not asking me any questions. That's when I know, like, okay, they think they know too much, and I need to start having a conversation with them about, like, give me some feedback here. You know what I'm saying?
So it's common knowledge, like, it's not easy to hire, train, grow, nurture, and retain top ISA talent. I do wanna get back to your story, though, like, I wanna hear your transition, like, your aha moment, like, as an ISA, from looking at it, you've essentially gone completely the other end of the spectrum from an ISA for the entrepreneur to being the entrepreneur that provides the ISA. So let's follow that journey. I'm curious to hear what aha moment gave you the courage to say, I can do this better and I can do it for others.
For sure. So I worked as an ISA for 3 years with the Spencer Hash team. So at the time, high watermark, I mean, we were doing about $90 million a year in transaction volume as a team. So that was for the entire team. I think we had like 15 agents that were working full time. And then we had a couple part timers, but really it was just 15 agents that are, essentially working full time. I was the sole ISA in the office booking appointments for the entire team. So we were doing about 90 million a year. It was about 400 sides a year. I mean, the appointments that I was setting up for the office was accounting for just a shade over about 50% of all the transaction volume that was going through that office. And that's not a typo. And I know this because in order for me to get paid as an ISA, all of my like I had to track these deals as an ISA, tracking these deals to actually make sure that the agents are putting their notes in the CRM, like that the lead has actually gone from like appointment to appointment closed. It's very complicated. Like when you're trying to corral agents to actually make sure that notes are updated, it's very complicated. So I had very detailed notes on exactly what was being closed. So it was about, 50% of all the transaction volume that was going through the office was the things that I had essentially set up. And yeah, that's to be assumed because I was the only ISA in the office. And if I'm not doing that, I'm not doing my job, basically. So I guess it's not really a surprise. But 2017, I decided that I was ready for a change. We had a listing agent position open up in the office. Like we had somebody leave. I wanted to go out in the field and see if I could start closing deals out in the field. So I did that for a year, sold 95 properties my first year as a listing agent. And to be
Good
honest,
for you, man. That's awesome.
dude, I burned I mean, I didn't even realize at the time, like looking back, like it's actually a little bit eye opening, but I didn't even realize like that was really a big deal at the time. What I did know is that, man, I burned myself out. I had to call it quits after that year. I remember there was one time I got a call from a client literally at like 12 o'clock on a Friday. And this was back, like, I don't drink anymore. I haven't drinking anything for 2 years, this is another side note. I was at a bar or something. I was having a drink with a couple buddies and I'm literally getting a call from a client at 12 o'clock on a Friday. And I'm just like, dude, I'm so like, I'm done with it. Like, I'm done with this. Like, I do not want to be dealing with this right now. And I also had a different mindset at the time. I think I had a pretty selfish mindset at the time. I think now it's different because as a business owner, if somebody's calling me at 12 o'clock, there's probably something wrong about that. Oh my gosh. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Stupid Google Voice. But
Perfectly timed.
yeah, I know, right? So like if somebody's calling you at 12 o'clock on a Friday, like it's probably important. But I think back then I was more focused on myself, whereas now just a mindset shift. If you're focused on really serving the needs of your clients, like listen, I'll pick up the phone at 12 o'clock if I've got a client call me. I think most of the clients I work with, like they're not going to be calling me at 12 o'clock. I enjoy who I work with.
I mean, there's a lot of parallels between my story and yours. I mean, I was doing on market and off market, but my first year in this brand new market, I did 72 conventional deals like on market. And I think, I don't know, a few dozen off market wholesale and portfolio deals. But I was working 7 days a week. Most days, 16 hours was a
Normal day,
that was an
easy day.
sometime I remember I mean, I remember not sleeping. Like, there was one time I had, without any help, no admin, no team, I had 17 deals in escrow, and I was going on a 3-week trip to Canada where I was gonna be off grid, and
You're not going on a trip.
I went, but I had to spend 3 nights not sleeping. I literally stayed up and just got in front of all that work and set it up, and I got to a point where I'm like, "This is insane. Like, this isn't a business. This is a really shitty job."
Yeah.
And then I had
Yeah.
to make changes, and I had to bring other people in. I had to learn to delegate, and I had to grow. So I mean, be kind to yourself, I guess, is my point. Like, you learned from that. Like, you burn out, but you took a valuable lesson from it. It's not that customer experience didn't matter. It's just that you were out of bandwidth. Like, it mattered less than your own sanity at one point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it literally starts affecting your health. I mean, I actually, I mean, I forgot about this, but at the time, I mean, dude, starting to have like panic attacks and like being stressed. And it's like, dude, it's like literally affecting my health. That's when I knew like I got to change things up here because this is not working out. So basically, I mean, I took a year off. I was dealing with some other stuff at the time, personal stuff that was also causing me to just be all sorts of stressed out. So basically from like 2018 to like 2020 when I started my current business, honestly, like it was just a stretch of like I wasn't really sure what I was doing. You know, when you go through a year of just like doing well but hating it, you're just like, man, I just don't want to go back to that. So I don't even really know how it began. We started doing ISAs and lead generation specifically for clients, and it just started snowballing. I don't do any advertising. I mean, I'd say the majority of the people that reach out to us is mostly inbound and referral based, which again, to be honest, like that's the kind of business that you want. You know, I enjoy the people that I do business with. Like I treat them like family. And yeah, it's essentially how I got started. So
But your original vision was, if I can find the ISA and teach them what I know, then hand them off, then I can arbitrage from that, right? Like, you can make a fee for service.
that is exactly correct. So like initially, so last year, and you and I were talking about this initially. So what we started doing is we actually were doing ISA placements. So we would find the ISA, recruit them, put them through our application process, so get down to the creme de la creme, like the best of the best, who we feel like are going to do an amazing job doing this. Just to be clear, so like anytime you're hiring people, you're dealing with the most unpredictable thing on the face of the planet. You can have the best hiring process in the world. Just to expect that 50% of these people are not even going to work out. So
So, guys, this is where Andy can be such a valuable resource to you and to the community. So, I'm blessed with lots and lots of insanely successful people in my life. When I have access to people like that, I tend to ask 90% of my questions are geared towards the mistakes they've made, not what they got right. And before we started this recording, Andy and I were joking about how we used to think every year we know less, even though you read books and meet people and go to conventions. As you progress and grow as a person, if you're doing it right, I think you'll realize less and less every year as you gain wisdom and become more humble. So what I want to talk about, what I really want to, like, what I think they can really benefit from you is like learning from that vision you had that gave you the courage to take action. Like, that entrepreneurial spark went off and you're like, yes, that's it. I can do it. Like, what lessons came from that and what made you shift your model? Because that's a lot of the people listening to this are also, they're either in the thick of this or they're still looking for that spark of courage to make the move. So I think I'm giving you a platform to help people not make the same mistakes you've made, and that's super valuable to learn from somebody.
man, we've made a lot of mistakes. So, like, the number one thing that I have learned, though, when it comes to hiring people in general, and I love everybody, like, everybody on our team, man, we treat them like family. We do our best to treat them the best that we possibly can. But listen, at the end of the day, like, you're running a business, and if you're putting all your eggs in one basket for one person, you're going to get burned a lot. And I think the reason why we are growing right now, and I have to give her a shout, is, I mean, my head of recruiting, she's incredible, EJ. So she's doing anywhere from 7 to 10 interviews per day right now. I mean, she's one of the hardest working people I've ever met. She knows exactly what we're looking for. I mean, we're playing the volume game, like to get to the best of the best. If you're planning on doing this yourself, you got to have volume to work with. Otherwise, again, if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, like I'm telling you, you're just not going to be successful. So like if we have somebody quit on us or they resign, this happens. I mean, honestly, it happens all the time. We just had somebody resign on us last week and it was personal problems. So, it wasn't a fit for her. So we had to quickly come in, swap out that ISA for a client. And that happened same day. So their business was not interrupted. But the reason why we're able to do that is because not only do we have the recruiting side of the equation down, but we've got anywhere from 5 to 10 ISAs in our trial period that are training at any given time. So I can literally, you're out of the picture, you're in. It's like a sports team, basically. I have a bench of people I can work with. You know what I'm saying?
But before you learned that lesson, you were playing one-on-one, like you were playing pickup ball, right? When someone walked away, you were left high and dry and the dials weren't being made.
Oh, no, let me clarify that. The dials were being made, but guess who was making the phone calls? I was making the phone calls. Yeah. Which for the client, maybe that's a plus for them because 8 years of doing this, you get pretty good on the phone. Again, like what I tried to get out of now, I'm like going straight back into it because I'm having to do everybody's job for them. And you were just mentioning this, like 16-hour days. Like that's like an easy day. The days start getting crazy. So if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, you're gonna feel the pain. And just be prepared. I think honestly, that's the biggest lesson that we've learned doing this is play the volume game. Make sure you have people that are ready to go. And
And expect 1 and 2 to go somewhere else before you actually get them up to speed, or like once you're comfortable with them, 1 out of every 2 is gonna leave.
I think your listeners may find value in this. I'll share this. I'll walk you guys through our actual application process step by step. So the way that we do this right now, and
I wanna make a clear transition. I may be as the interviewer, I may be confusing this. I'm looking at what your original model was. We haven't really talked much about what your current model is, so let's make that transition first and then talk about your process.
for sure, yeah. So in 2021, and in basically since we started, we were doing ISA placements. So what I mean by ISA placement is we essentially go out into the marketplace, we find a really high quality individual, we train them for a time period of about 3 to 4 months is about what we found that it takes us to get somebody with no knowledge of how to do this job to a point where like they're 80% of the way there and they know how to do this job at a very high level. And then the last 20% that's gained over the span of about a year of doing it, just doing it every single day. So we were doing it that way, and a lot of problems were coming into play there. But I think the biggest problem that we were having is one, it's a people management problem. So like when we were pulling out from the placement and we conclude the placement, we let that ISA remain with the client. It's really hard to just drop all the accountability in the systems that we have in place, and then the client is just expected to like deal with it.
Your culture was lost in translation, like that didn't transfer. So you brought them into one environment where they felt cared for and you were growing them. And then you move them into a whole different company culture and give up control. You both give up control of that, right?
A
Like
hundred percent.
inside of your business. And you can't ever control that. Like you can't control if you place somebody with a bad people manager, they're probably going to fail no matter how good they are at their job, right?
100%. And so it's a combination. They don't know how to do it. And maybe like they just got too much on their plate. And then, you have a couple that they just don't want to do it. Basically, what we found is that the placement model, I mean, for us, it just doesn't work. Like for us to achieve like the highest possible results and have it be consistent day in, day out, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, we've got to be involved every single day. And you and I were talking about this prior to the call. Such a huge part of this is accountability. You can have the best systems, best training in the world, but if you don't have any accountability, you still get zero. You get a zero. For us, so we in 2021, January 1st of 2021, we moved to a straight up subscription model. So basically, a client comes to us, they have a database that I'd say the majority of the clients that we work with have a database of anywhere from 5 to 70,000 leads. I mean, that's the range of database sizes that we're playing with right now. And they know that they have a lead follow-up problem, but I feel like, I mean, because this is such a tough business to scale, like nobody's really come in and figure out how to do it. So they essentially come to us, they want their database cleaned up and they want booked appointments. The thing that makes us different from everybody else, and this is not designed to turn into a sales pitch or anything like that, but it's just like this is how we get results. Like we actually work inside of the client CRM. This is not happening outside of in a third party CRM. This is all happening inside of your CRM. So you as a client can go in and see, what is my ISA doing today? Are they doing the work? Things like that. So that's the transition. I did that clarify your question?
So I think that's a good time now to talk about what does that onboarding look like? Because I think the questions in the audience right now are going to be, well, can you do that for my probate leads? What lead types can you do it for? Is it just sellers or can you do buyers too? Like, let's talk about the relationship, the B2B relationship between your company and the practitioner and how that process works. Like, how customized is it? How boilerplate is it? Like, what does it look like?
For sure. In terms of lead types, any like we work with every lead type. A lead is a lead is a lead. If it's probate, if it's Zillow, radio advertising, like that, yeah, the messaging is going to be a little bit different. I mean, it is going to be different, depending on what the lead source is. But we have scripts that we use for this stuff. And yeah, we have all sorts of clients. So we work with, and we've got YouTube clients, we've got people that have Facebook groups, we've got people that they spend a huge amount of money on realtor.com and Zillow. So depending on what the lead sources are, we will match the messaging to whatever the lead sources are that you're using. The first month, so you were specifically asking about the onboarding process. If you're looking for perfection, I think again, you're just not going to be successful. The two options of progress versus perfection, we're always focused on the progress side of the equation. Like perfection, like the first month, it's messy. Like I'm not going to lie, like it's messy often during the first month. And I tell them that when I have an initial call with them, if you do move forward with us, I'm just telling you right now, if you spend all day looking inside of your CRM at messages that we're sending out on your behalf, some of these messages are not going to make sense. Like there's no way around it. Like some of these messages are literally not going to make sense. The point is like conversions happen in conversations. If you're not having any conversations, you're not getting any conversions, you're not getting any commission checks. So the way that we look at this is like, this is a process. We're playing the long-term game. And at the end of the day, again, give me the option between perfection and progress. I'm going to take progress every time. Like I could care less if there's mistakes happening as long as those conversations are turning into conversations for me and my team in the form of booked appointments. Like, does it really matter how you get there, really? And then in terms of the onboarding process, we get access to your CRM, we get all those logins, like those are all sent over via a type form. So we have the onboarding process is pretty quick. Like when somebody signs on with us, like usually we're up and running within a week, and that's basically what it looks like. I mean, it's pretty streamlined. Like we get all the info ahead of time, so we're not having to bug the clients, throughout the process. Like, what do we do here? What do we do here? Like that's our job. Like
You know what lead types you're prospecting, what the prospecting block hours are, like where that fits into the calendar. I'm assuming that's part of your onboarding process. You're going to say, what hours do you want us prospecting? And and do they want live transfers versus calendar appointments? Is it that, are those options available or is it like, here's how we do it?
everything that you mentioned there, we customize it towards the clients. In terms of the hours that the ISAs are working, we strongly recommend 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. local time. You're laughing. I saw.
For years, I've been referencing an MIT study on Zillow cold calls. And what they found is prospecting on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. raised your conversion rates by like 164%.
Wow. Okay.
And I've referenced that study. I found it in like 2013 and I've referenced it so many times because that was when I was an active practitioner and I was like, screw it, I'm going to take a chance. So I changed my prospecting blocks to those 12 hours a week. I'd hit those blocks. So it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 to 10 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. And everything else was either appointment times or personal time. Like I did not go on appointments on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I did not make calls on Mondays and Fridays. And I did my best to take Saturdays and Sundays off. When I actually had the courage to put that in place, that's when I started to reclaim my time and my transaction volume continued to go up for
Yeah.
from 72 the year prior to 103 or 4 the next year. but it focused me. I had a much higher percentage of, I had a much higher chance of connecting, and I had a much higher chance of converting during those call blocks. So like for me, that's why if I were hiring you and I'm very specific based on the positive reinforcement from that experience. But it's interesting, you guys have basically found the same thing. Like you're looking at those when you're most likely to convert. But it sounds like you're still willing to make the calls. If the client says, I want you making Saturday morning calls, you'll do it, right?
So as far as the scheduling side of things, like the majority of the clients that we work with are, it's a Monday through Friday deal. We do have clients that, I mean, it's a 5 days a week work schedule, something along those lines. If we do have a client that is, and we do have clients that do this, instead of taking days off on Saturdays and Sundays, we're taking days off Tuesday, Thursday. So we're flexible. But yeah, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I mean, those are the same times that I was calling when I was an ISA. And I didn't know about the MIT study, but I just was basing it on past experience. Like I had success doing it, so I feel like I'm not going to reinvent the wheel.
Oh, that's why I was smiling, because it was consistent. It seemed like you didn't know about it, but you found the same result. And I
Yeah.
think the study was based on 88,000 outbound calls to Zillow leads.
Okay.
That was the origin. So you've been on the phone with Zillow leads, right? Like the ability to connect and the ability to convert were the two KPIs in the study. And both were like, I think one was 114% increase and the other was 164 by focusing on those middle of the day calls or
Yeah.
in those specific blocks. I took us down that rabbit hole. So, all right. So to summarize, like let me just ask you a direct question. Do you think it makes sense for any real estate practitioner who is operating at a level where they have a comfortable income, they want to grow their business, and they're looking at what the options are? Do you think it makes sense for any of them? And if so, which ones to actually hire and onboard and manage their own ISA versus using a service? I'll give you my soapbox rant on leads.
Okay.
Like when a practitioner who says, I'm going to make six figures this year, whether they have or have not, that's the mindset they're committed to, right? So your time is worth, let's just say, no less than $50 an hour if you're in a six-figure mind. Even if you haven't achieved it, I'm going to say that's a $50. Your role is $50 an hour if you're going to hit your goal. Otherwise, you're just bullshitting yourself. So
Right.
let's apply that the value of your time is $50 an hour. Now, you get in your car, you sit in traffic, you drive 30 minutes to a courthouse, you go through security, you talk to the clerk, waste 5 minutes there, grab a Hershey's bar out of the candy bowl, finally get to the records room, wait until she's done dealing with the other person, then can teach you how to pull the NOD or the probate or the divorce or whatever lead type you're there for. You write it down on pen and paper, or you pay $1.50 to print it. Then you come back to your house, you waste some time having lunch, then you put it into a spreadsheet. Then you go to Spokeo or Intellius and you skip trace it to get the phone number. Then you decide you have to get it into a CSV, import it into your CRM. And finally, after an entire day, you've got 30 leads that are ready to prospect. You're ready to start making calls 8 hours into this. So for me, if you're in a six-figure mindset, or if you're already in a six-figure income bracket, I will absolutely say you are losing money if you're doing your own data acquisition. Positively, I've modeled it out. I've used it in coaching. I've had to put it in spreadsheets and prove it to people. I assume you probably are similarly as passionate in preventing people from making that mistake in the ISA space.
100%. So I agree. The data acquisition part, like you got to delegate that out. If you're doing that yourself, maybe if you're having to create the SOPs first, I actually do recommend do it yourself. Make sure you've got it down. Create
One
your S once, or maybe a few times to make sure you got the process down, document it on Loom, record it on Loom, and then delegate it out to somebody with SOPs on exactly what they need to do to get it done. So that you can focus on, in that case, actually doing the calls and getting these people on the phone. The one thing that I will say that I think is really important, I have seen a number of times is we'll have a client come to us that thinks that they're ready for an ISA. And I didn't realize this until after like we got into this a little bit. They're ready for an ISA, like they've got the exact mindset that you're talking about. They've got the six-figure mindset. But the issue is they have not spent enough time on the phone developing the muscle memory required to know how to actually get deals closed in the first place. And that's a really important concept to understand, because if you can have an amazing ISA booking appointments to you, but if you don't know how to like overcome objections and get past the first 5 seconds of the call, how to ask the right questions, how to listen on the phone, the appointment can get booked, but like the agent doesn't know what to do with it. And then they will come back and they'll say like, I'm just not getting anywhere with these leads. And truly, like, I didn't understand where the problem was, but we started spending a whole lot more time with the clients that we're working with. And then it became very clear, like, okay, wow, they don't like the appointment has been set, but they don't know how to approach it properly. When we're talking about the actual conversion side of things, and I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of you here, but the actual conversion side of things, like appointments are great, closings pay the bills, right?
Mhm. The problem you're highlighting is also why this community exists, right? So we have right now we're offering a course in the probate space, and it doesn't like I think some people expect to come in and learn all about probate law and the logistics of it. We talk about enough of that so you can understand the process, but 90% of success in any niche is really being empathetic to the prospect's situation and
Mhm.
crafting an offer that's valuable to them, and you defeat the objections before they arise. So I think in this community, you're going to find that they know how to deal with the appointment. Like that's what they've taken a 16-hour course. They know what these people are going through, what's valuable to them, what's not, what to say, what not to say. It's the biggest problem in this community is the work's not getting done. Either
Yeah.
they don't have the time to make the calls, or they've call reluctance has crept in on them for some reason, or something shifted, like a child got ill, a parent had to go into long-term care, whatever that reason might be. But I agree, like that problem you highlighted is the reason real estate training is so valuable. It's the reason third-party services that specialize, like you've figured out what the biggest choke points are in recruiting, training, and retaining ISAs. And that learning curve is steep.
Oh, it's so brutal. It
I learned how to close. I learned how to monetize pretty much every real estate conversation I was on. So that's what I try to teach and convey is here's what you do when you have the conversation. So here's how you establish rapport,
Mhm.
you find out what their needs are, and you earn the real estate conversation. You don't start into, hey, you get a house, you ready to sell it? Like you focus on people and situation
Mhm.
and then move to real estate. And done correctly, it can be very fluid and easy and it's easily repeatable. So that's kind of who this community is. Like they prescribe to that and they've done it. But it's interesting to see that we both, I mean, our businesses both serve the same problem.
100%. In terms of coming back to your original question about do we recommend going out and doing this yourself or hiring somebody else to do this? Man, unless you really enjoy pain and you really enjoy like the learning process, by all means, feel free to go do it yourself. It's going to be expensive too. Like the amount of expense that you'll incur trying to figure this stuff out yourself, like you probably been better off hiring somebody that knows exactly what they're doing,
So
honestly.
we're all in real estate here. So let's use a real estate metaphor. If you had to, out of dire straits or sheer necessity, I bet you could build your own house, right?
That
Like
yeah, but there's
there's
no
no option.
way
It still does
I'd be
it
doing it.
still doesn't make any damn sense because
Yeah.
you take yourself out of that and go do whatever you do, close deals, whatever that was, while you trade that time for money and trade that money for the contractor's time to build you a house. So it's not to say that you can't, but you probably shouldn't because it's a huge pain and a huge learning curve and costly mistakes will be made. And I've watched so many of my friends go through this, guys that are doing anywhere from 50 to six, 700 deals a year and oftentimes two transaction sides on the majority of those. And I've watched the pain out of like having an office of one ISA, upwards of like 12 in one office. And I've yet to hear anyone say, you know what, that was a hell of a lot easier than I expected it to be.
That was so much fun. Let's do it again.
It usually results in my ISA is now my competition because I taught him or her how to be good on the phones and get listing appointments. And then they figured out how to close the appointment. So now I'm competing with them. That's usually the outcome.
That's a very good point, and I'll tell you what, so this was something that we learned, midway through the process is, like, the benefits of actually having a remote ISA, they're never gonna be your competition, right? So there's that whole aspect of it as well, like, it's like you're spending all this time, to train them, and then they go off and they join somebody else because they realize that they can make more money as a real estate agent, basically. The benefits of hiring remote, they cannot be understated there. My entire company is remote, living out of Airbnbs right now, traveling full time. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but
But we're both nomads too.
yeah, so it's I mean, the benefits of hiring somebody that is working remote that actually want to work remote. So like these individuals that we bring on, we hire from all over the world. We've hired from Pakistan, the Philippines. We brought somebody on from the Commonwealth of Dominica. I didn't even realize the Commonwealth of Dominica was different from the Dominican Republic. So I'm getting a better geography class than I ever had, in school. honestly, going through this stuff. We hired somebody in from Mexico the other day. Where else? Ecuador. So like, all over the place. And these people, like, they want to work from home. Being able to offer that as a job benefit, again, like if you can provide them with a much higher standard of living than they would be able to get in a job like in their specific country, then it's just like it's a win-win for everybody. And I think that's what we're really big on. So
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour. I won't keep you for too much longer. I want to like underscore some key points here. So it's clear to see that regardless of where you are, whether you're the top producer level or you're in 6 or 7 figures of income, the transition to having an in-house, I'd say, is never easy. And I think you can tell from Andy's story. And I mean, I've seen so many people go through this. That doesn't change that a lot of people perceive it as not as challenging as we might agree that it is based on our experience. People are still going to try it. The conversation keeps coming up like, should I do this? How do I train them? What systems do I use? The conclusion here is if you want to cost yourself money and you want to introduce more complexity and challenges into your business, then undertake it that way. Otherwise, this is something that can be outsourced. And something we haven't talked about, and guys, I'm not a hard sell person at all. There's options out there. A friend of mine, Daniel Ramsey, owns My Outdesk, and he's been on this show as one of our experts. He has one model. And Andy, something I'd like to talk about is your model. Like, who is your ideal customer? At what level could they afford a service like yours? What can they expect if they are drawn to what you have to say and want to try out your service?
yeah, absolutely. So I'd say realistically, the numbers that we're looking for is specifically database size. Like you're bringing on an ISA for a reason. You have a follow up problem, and the minimum database size that we look for is about 2,500 leads in the database. And that's like just because we need enough opportunities to book appointments from. This is a numbers game.
I want to be clear to the community. So here, most of these folks are getting on average 80 leads a month from their probate, just in the probate pillar of their business. However, that's compounding. If they've been doing it for a year, then they might have 1,000 leads, 1,000 probate leads in the database. But I want to be clear, like you have sphere of influence, you have past clients, you have anyone who's in your database. The other thing I want to say is I was shocked when I first started training real estate professionals, how few of them, one, knew what a CRM was, two, had one, because it's something I've always had. Like from the very, very first time I ever stepped into real estate, I had a spreadsheet, but that was my CRM, right? I kept track of my contacts. And so it's something that if you don't have a CRM, I'll say it again, go get a damn CRM. It's one of the foundational steps to being a real estate professional. But if you do, if you're thinking about this, like, oh man, I don't have 2,500 leads, you probably do. Throughout all of the things that you've done and tried, if you can find that data and get it into a CRM, we probably all have more than 2,500 contacts that would be viable prospecting.
For sure. And a couple other things that I'll just mention here. So the total database size, that's one lever that we pull. The other one that we pull is the total amount of fresh monthly leads that are coming into the database. So if you've got 80 to 100 probate leads, great. That's about the number that we need to make sure again that your ISA has enough work to do and enough leads to call to book appointments from.
I mean, understand, like this is one pillar. Most people, they have sphere of influence. They've got referral business.
Yeah.
They've got other things. They're getting internet leads or they're door knocking, neighborhood like circle prospecting or neighborhood farming. I mean, if I have it my way, they'll be able to reach a 7 figure income just doing this one thing. For a lot of people, there's enough lead volume that's achievable. And that's the thing I'm most proud of is the number of 7 figure people that have come through this course for $500 and they're making 7 figures and they just quit everything else. That's what I'm striving for. I realize that's not going to happen the first year for every single person. They're coming in at different stages of their career. Some of them are investors and brokers. Some of them are just brokerage. Some are just investment. Some of them are working 5 lead types. Some of them are brand new to the business and just found this and it's what they're starting with. But for most people, I think they're using multiple strategies. So they have different lead sources and a bigger database than just their probate leads.
Yeah, and I agree like 100%. So like if you really dig down and think about it, like if you don't have all the stuff in one centralized location, like if once you get it all in one centralized location inside of a CRM, you might actually be surprised at how many people like you actually have in there. So like the CRM, it really doesn't matter that much. It's how you're actually using the CRM, and do you have SOPs in place, and are you holding people accountable to those SOPs on a daily basis? That's how you're going to get results. So like the CRM, it doesn't really matter, but like, is there something that we can come in here and like actually help this person solve a problem? I mean, those are really the numbers that we're looking for. And as far as the costs, like what we charge to essentially do this, so we're at 2,500 a month. Right now, we ask for a 6-month commitment because, quite frankly, like I'd say the majority of our clients, I mean, they start seeing deals closing around months 5 and 6. They should be ROI positive by months 7 and 8. If they're not, usually there's a problem at that point. So this is not Amazon Prime. It's not Uber Eats. You can't tap a button and the money magically shows up tomorrow. I mean, if you're investing in your business for the long term, which that's the only way we play this game, at least over here. And I get a sense like that's how you guys are playing as well. But then, yeah, we'd love to talk to you and see how we can help. Again, we do not do perfection, but we do progress and we do results as well.
So we'll just recap that. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're using a CRM, it has more than 2,500 contacts. You're consistently adding 80 to 100 at least at a minimum per month, and $15,000 over 6 months to scale your business massively doesn't scare the shit out of you, then you're probably a good prospect. I also want to point back to the very early in this conversation. Andy, someone who's trying to decide, should I work with Andy or do this on my, ignore his advice and do this on my own? Let's look at the math of it. Let's just look at the logic of it. So for $30,000 a year for the full 12 months, they would have 30,000 invested to have all of the systems, all of the recruiting, all of the management, the customer relation, but with the B2B relationship and support. That costs 30 grand a year. And you got people, you got full-time callers setting appointments for you. Versus if you do this on your own, you're likely to find a caller that's qualified. You might have as much as $45,000 a year in a domestic ISA,
Mhm.
or you fight through the same learning curve that we've discussed here today. You find a virtual ISA, you interview dozens upon dozens of them, you hire 10 of them, 5 of them stick, one of those actually turns out to be good. And then they leave you 2 or 3 months later and you come all the way back and start over. And I'm trying to point the value that I see in this, the ability to at least step in and say, okay, on day one, we know we have a system like qualified callers using a systematic approach. And I have some influence on that. That's customizable to my business. And it might take 6 months to ramp up before the snowball really starts gaining momentum versus taking it on yourself. I have to put the systems in place, the recruiting systems, the business systems, all this, go figure this out, go meet these people, figure out which ones are good, which ones are going to stick around, which ones are going to leave. And like going back to my earlier comment about the value of your time, if you're in a 6-figure mindset or greater, like if you figure up what you actually pay them and the amount of time you spend going through that, I think everyone will find either I want this and I'm going to do it now, or I want this and when I can afford it, I'm getting it, or I'm just going to go make my own calls, which I won't have a problem with. If you guys all decide, if this inspires you to get on the phone and do your own calls, that's always better. Like, because you're going to convert at a higher level. But if your calls aren't being made, I wanted to put people and professionals in front of you that can actually help you with that problem, because it's always better to do something than just not prospect.
Couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, I agree 100%. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm making live calls every single day in front for the ICs that we're doing. So even though I'm running the business, like I'm still doing this every single day because if I don't make calls, like you get rusty and you're deluding yourself if you think that you don't get rusty.
Yep. Andy, I really appreciated that. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate your time. Tell us how we can keep in touch, get in touch with you. How can they find out more about your service? What's your desired form of contact here? And we'll
Yeah,
also drop it in the show notes.
absolutely. I appreciate that. So I'm very active on both Facebook and LinkedIn. If you want to just, add me as a friend on either or shoot me a message on either one of those.
Andy Cole, Cole.
Andy Cole, yes, yes, sir. And you can also reach out to us on our website. You can book a call with me on our website, www.0260labs.com. That's 0260 numbers labs, labs.com. And man, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. I have a feeling we're going to have to do a follow-up or 12 to this. It's a constant conversation in real estate communities. We may actually invite you to one of our group coaching calls on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. We do a live call every week. And I think it would be, I would like to at least give them access to you here and then maybe invite you back to one of our live coaching calls where if you're willing to take the hot seat in front of, practitioners, like
Let's do it. Honestly, like what I've learned is the more that I say yes, the more like the things just start happening. So let's do it. Yeah, I'm in. Count me in.
all right, Andy, thanks so much. And we'll have him on schedule for you guys to talk to yourself soon. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Have a great
All right,
day.
Chad, appreciate it.